Welcome back everyone, this is Tordala from the Oop Squad and today we have a treat for you. As we will be going for our first seal, which is going to be the bronze seal you can see right here. But before we get down into the business part of things, let's go to the smoldering city and do some quick upgrades. Before upgrades we need to claim of course our deeds, which will allow us to potentially level up and get access to some new buildings. So level 6 provides us the access to Druid's Hut, perfect for oil, also quite decent for tea, and it also provides us coats. Then the granary, pickled goods, fabric, bag of crops have really decent recipes within this one. And another building for oil with a 3-star recipe is the press. And the monastery is a service building that also allows us to potentially make good use of it. We cannot check the preview here, but once we roll it, we'll be definitely taking a closer look at it. And a few extra cornerstones we didn't have access to before. So one of them is boosting global resolve by 5 for 180 seconds every time a new glade is discovered. But boot cutting will be slower until we open at least 2 glades. And the other one is frequent caravans. The crown is very forgiving, as long as the goods keep flowing. Impatience grows 30% slower for 180 seconds every time you finish a trade route. And there is also a sneaky little new trader here, Sothor the Ancient. He might have service goods, crafting materials, blueprints for alchemical buildings and perks for sale. So, relatively huge upgrade. I guess mostly looking towards these new buildings, especially. Because oil is like a critical resource in terms of solving several different glade events. Now we have a little bit more extra XP in the form of other deeds we haven't claimed yet. Yeah, and everything else is mostly just cosmetic stuff. So regarding the upgrades, we do not have access to too many upgrades, as in terms of currency we just have access to the food stockpiles. But when we do take a look at the options we do have on board, then one of the things we definitely want to unlock is this Brass Forge level 1. What it will give us is 2% boost to global production speed in our settlement. But the more interesting or exciting part about it is that when choosing the embarkation bonus, we can choose villagers now. And villagers are a huge resource. The more we have to start with, the better. So let's unlock this one, and there are 2 other upgrades we are interested in. One of them is this Pioneer's Gate level 2. This gives villagers in our settlement a permanent 2% increase in their walking speed. And we get 1 additional embarkation point. Combining this with just the villager embarkation bonus that we unlocked, well, we will be using a lot of embarkation points on the villagers, so anything extra will help us. And last but not least, Obsidian Archive level 5 will give us again a 2% speed up or slow down, depends on how to look at it, to the speed at which the Queen's impatience grows. But there is also this perk, or I'm not sure, feature called the last stand, meaning that if we are really struggling to finish in time and Queen's impatience goes to the maximum, we will still get 30 seconds of grace period to try it and save our settlement. So if we manage to get the reputation point, this will stop the countdown and we will be able to still proceed with our settlement and try to make it successful. And that leaves us with 12 more food stockpiles, so let's call it a day for now, as there is nothing else we can upgrade for such a little amount of food stockpiles. So as Easter is just around the corner, we will use this opportunity to settle something new, and we have the perfect name for the new settlement. We will call it the Bronze Burrow. So hope it's a lucky one, like a lucky rabbit's foot. So what do we have on the table for us? In terms of caravans, we have either the option of 3 lizards and 3 harpies, along with 2 random villagers, or we can go for 8 lizards without any additional villagers. In terms of numbers of villagers, they're kind of similar options. But then our attention turns towards what they bring along. And why I kind of like the 8 lizard option more is that they bring more food. Sure, plant fiber is nice for fabrics, pottery is nice for, well, initial food, like if you could get access to making, was it the pickled goods, yeah, that would help us. But these skewers are already cooked. The fish and vegetables are always a delicious addition. So we'll be going for the lizards. In terms of the embarkation bonuses, we have 5 points, and 2 of them we'll definitely use for extra villagers. This means initially we'll be having 8 plus 3 villagers to start with. And I'm leaning towards having these food items as extra to bring along. So 20 eggs, 20 roots, leaving us with 1 additional point to spend on, and the only option we have here is wood, which is not bad at all because it helps us get our initial buildings built up quicker. If you just take a quick look at the summary itself about this specific map, then we will have an average amount of fertile soil that we ideally will be taking an advantage of. If you take a look at the conditions once more, then the trees will be providing us, in addition to wood, with meat, sea marrow, and leather. Especially like the meat option, because food has been historically always a topic that's been hurting a little bit. And on the map there are berries, insects, meat, roots, mushrooms, salt, copper ore, clay, reed, algae, scales, and again sea marrow. We will be playing on Viceroy difficulty. I think we're ready to go. I hope you guys are too. So let's embark. Burrow, welcome. Okay, as usual, let's take a look at the bonuses and disadvantages we have. So Forest Mysteries. The good one we got. Increases reputation gain from resolve by 100%. That is magnificent. So a warm welcome to start off with. Regarding the Forest Mysteries, the first one is the standard option, so Looming Darkness. The second one is Acid Rain. What it does, it basically the recipes producing building materials yield 50% fewer goods. Something to keep in mind during the storm, and it's active since hostility level 3. And then in the same thematics, Corrosive Rainfall. So acid rain is slowly eating away at all metal objects, producing copper bars, crystallized dew, and all goods that use metal ingots yield 50% fewer goods. So basically it becomes impossible to make anything during the storm in terms of building materials. Starting from level 5 hostility, we get Downpour. And what it does is that if we do not have the housing and services needs fulfilled, villagers with this effect have an extra 50% chance of consuming double the amount of food during a break. So we rather avoid it if possible. And the last one, Eerie Song. Also from hostility level 5. If we don't have the services needs fulfilled, then villagers with this effect have a 5% chance of perishing every 15 seconds. Oof, that's a nasty one. Let's do our best not to get to hostility level 5. Let's check out the map itself. So we can see we have several options in terms of dangerous glades around us. Also a few small glades if you choose to go towards that. First things first, we will build the woodcutters camps. And the hearth is towards the north side of the camp, so probably if you want to build a quick second hearth, we will be going towards the south side of the camp just to clean up the area as quickly as possible. Plus also the bonus is that our main warehouse is nearby the woodcutters. Okay, so we got 9 lizards and 2 harpies in the end as a starting package. If we think about who will be the firekeeper, most likely lizards are the better option as they will provide us with some extra resolve. Harpies too allow people to carry more stuff, but initially I hope it will not be an issue. Okay, and the lizards will be doing the wood cutting. We do not have any beavers, and we do not know who will be the third type of villagers we are going to have in the future. So 6 lizards are on the tree cutting business. Of course, we'll do some mandatory road networks here just to make things go by smoother. And also we like beautiful settlements, so just make sure the surrounding of the hearth is covered so people can just take their breaks around the hearth. And now in terms of the starting resources, we have access to the root node. So let's build one small foragers camp here. And we also have access to reed field, which will provide all the necessary resources for fabrics in our settlement. So no stone, no clay, which will become an issue relatively fast. So we'll have to find a way to obtain those resources as well. Okay, what else we need is probably a crude workshop. So this was under here. And we will place it near the main warehouse to reduce the walking times. In addition to that, we will also make the makeshift post, aiming to trade as soon as we can. And of course, in these dangerous conditions, housing will be critical. So since we have 11 villagers and we'll be expecting a few more during the storm, so we'll build at least 5 houses. Let's make the 5th one, yeah, top right corner works right for us. And park to fill the needs for, the requirements for the level 1 hearth. Now we still have a few unassigned workers. We probably want to put one of them, at least one of them on the food. Then one inside the crude workshop. We will change our strategy a bit and make this crude workshop just stockpile up to 10 of each types of base materials. This is just to preserve some resources we might need for alternative use cases. And yeah, let's have one harpy on the reed. Now, when it comes to consumption, then we want only wood to be burned in the hearth. We actually do have 20 gold, which can be used in alternative scenarios as well, like resolving some glade events. If you take a look at the consumption, then probably the skewers we will save for later once the storm hits. Because on the seal maps, the storms are relatively much nastier than on normal maps. Basically, every storm will bring some sort of a curse, I believe it was called. And also they're quite fixed. But I'll let you find out together with me what was the first effect of the first storm in the sealed forest. Now everything is going up at a quite decent speed. One of the reasons being that we started off with some wood from the embarkation bonus. While they're building everything, we can actually take a look at what recipes we have initially available to us. So butcher is quite decent choice because it has optimal recipes for skewers, jerky and oil. Oil being really necessary for solving some glade events. Provisioner is kinda meh. I mean, flour and barrels probably would be fine. Also it upgrades the packs of provisions. Probably not our first choice out of these. Okay, we'll take a quick pause. So, cornerstone choice. Ooh, we get grain delivery line on the table. Okay, let's go through all our options and then just make the right choice. But I believe we already know our answers. So exploration contract would allow us to gain 20 reed and 20 clay for each discovered glade. Given that we don't have clay or stone yet, sounds important. Then of course the grain delivery line, which would allow us to gain 3 grain per minute. That is not something to not consider. Many negatives. But the last option here is peasant supplies receive 3 packs of provisions for every new villager. So this grain delivery line is something that, if we take a look at our recipes again, and for example the butcher or even the druid hut, But what I wanted to show you is that this oil recipe is, can take grain as one of the resources to make oil out of. And this will help us solve glade events. Now, in terms of like what can make oil, the provisioner and stamping mill are kind of out. The stamping mill would allow, of course, to make out of flour some next level more complex foods. So, and the provisioner also has flour. So it's like, it's one of those cases with Viceroy difficulty that you have so many choices that you don't know which one is the perfect choice. But I do like the Druid's hut a lot. Just that we cannot make tea, for example, as we have no way to make any of these pottery barrels or water skins. But we will have access to reed and probably leather from the trees to allow us to make potentially the coats. I'm not sure what our resource for dyes or resin would be in that scenario. Because the trees don't give that part. Yeah, okay, they give leather, so that's something. But yeah, definitely we will pick the grain delivery line, and then we will have to take some time with our next choice regarding the blueprints. Because the flour option is quite common. As you can see, even in this scenario, we have like 2 options for the flour. But oil, and especially 3-star oil, this would allow us to make like 5 oil out of 2 grain. This seems too good to give up on. And also along with the tea, which we do not have all the resources for right now. Yeah, I think let's lock in this Druid's hut and let's see what the next screen gives us. Okay, the stamping mill is here again. In addition to that, the carpenter, the lumber mill, and leather worker. But we're not ready to make that choice yet. Orders are also unlocked. If we take a look at what we have on the table here, then we cannot be... Well, we have the trading post objective available to us, which is relatively easy to fulfill. Just need the trading post to be there along with 10 amber. Relics are not so simple because nobody guarantees that we will find ancient tablets anywhere. They would give us wildfire essence, which is relatively useful resource. But in this scenario, we'll go for the easier option. Now, the next thing on the table is a call to arms. In case we decide to deliver 5 purging fire, we will get access to heavy press. Given that we are going to be producing oil, this is quite a good option, along with some parts and new villagers. We just need to deliver 5 purging fire. And we can build the blight post, so not a tricky thing to achieve at all. Yeah, we'll go for the left side, especially because it's going to boost our oil production. And the last choice for now is between the metal veins, which would require us to have 15 copper ore. The bonuses are not that spectacular, given what we have access to right now. Or if we have a harvester camp, a stonecutter camp, and 10 bricks, then we would get 3 parts, 15 bundles of reeds, and some crates of clay. So yeah, the parts probably can be useful. We will be going for this option. Let's let our settlers keep building the stuff around the settlement. We will also get this druid hut on the map. Find a neat place for it. One thing we didn't do is change the behavior of the woodcutters, because they might be a bit too greedy in terms of opening up the glades when we're not yet ready for them. So we'll continue our network of roads towards the south. And yeah, let's find a nice place for the druid hut. So probably just flipping it around a little bit. Yeah, it's a bit like narrower than the main warehouse, which means I kind of like more if the woodcutter is towards the warehouse. And we can place the druid's hut in this 4x4 square. Well, it's not limited right now, but that's the plan, to make it 4x4. So our hostility is not too high. What's special about this map is that we do not get hostility from the woodcutters, but rather from the trees and the amount of trees that we cut down. Which means that ideally the first storm will be able to just get by with this setup here. I'm just double checking what is needed for the druid's hut, because planks we can make and fabric we can also make since we have access to reed. Bricks might become like an issue for us if we don't find, well, yeah, if we don't find the clay or stone resource quickly on the map. But the first dangerous glade we will be opening up most likely near the end of the first storm is the one to the south of here. And by that time we will be aiming to have also some oil available to us. So one of these woodcutters will have to change their job to the druid's hut for a little while. While the druid's hut has not been built, probably we want to limit the oil production to around 100. It's quite a lot, I know. And that's limited to be just made out of grain, because we don't want it to be using up the food resources. It's also enabled the tea recipe, so we will be needing some kind of water, some kind of a container to put it in, and we can have a bunch of tea. That's fine. And regarding the coats, well, yeah, we just need a way to get the resin or the dye on the table, but we'll also limit it to 100, so it's not unlimited, but somewhat limited option. Okay, so we have 53 wood available to us. It is now the clearance season. We have like 3.5 minutes left until the storm hits us. And if we take a look, we're right now building up the makeshift post. How is the situation in the makeshift post when it comes to provisions? So we could make some out of the food, but we don't want to risk it until we have the food production somewhat balanced with new incoming food. The only source we right now have is this small foragers camp, so fruits are coming in one by one, but that's maybe sustainable with the current population. Also, that actually the woodcutters give a nice addition in terms of the meat that they get from the trees. Okay, seems like everything is under control. The first shelter is going up. Perfect. We only have like one builder free, so this RP has to do overtime so that everybody gets a shelter before the storm. But yeah, when looking a little bit further down the road, then probably the next hearth will be somewhere in this pocket of the dangerous glade to the south of us. We should be good in terms of resolve for the first storm as well. We're at level 0, so probably -4 is all the effect we will be getting, and 6 and 7 resolve is perfectly fine to counter that. Now, I know makeshift post doesn't have anybody to work in it at the moment. And even if it gets any workers, then probably we just want to have planks used for the packs of building materials, which we will not have many. Let's limit also the packs of provisions to 6. And packs of crops to 4, if we should make them at all. And just make them out of grain, if anything. And again, like this recipe for the packs of provisions, just use herbs. We don't have them yet, but in case we do get them, that's the safest choice. Now, shelter number 2 is going up, which means we only have 8 homeless settlers, villagers at the moment. But this should go down to 5 after this shelter has been built. Now, woodcutters are doing a very decent job at progressing through the forest. It's kind of counterintuitive that probably we shouldn't cut down too much of the forest in order to not gain too much hostility of the forest. But then again, we need the wood, right? So, there are 2 villagers hidden behind these 5 purging fires. And that is something inviting, especially when you combine it with this heavy breast and 3 extra parts. So perhaps we can build the blight post. Do not have the bricks yet. Well, yeah, we'll have to cross our fingers that the first glade gives us access to bricks. You can already hear the sound of the storm in the background. So we will not actually enable skewers just now because it seems like we should have enough resolve points for all of our 2 different species for them not to go negative. At least not at hostility level 0. Now, what about our druid hut? Once this 3rd shelter is built, we can leave like 2 villagers out in the open for the initial part of the storm. We'll think about it. So, plague of mosquitoes. That is the first thing that hits us in this storm. So, global production speed is 50% slower. That is the effect we have to deal with. Now, let's unpause and see what consequences we have in terms of the resolve. So, we lost like 4 resolve as expected. And we're still in the positive. So, skewers will be useful for an upcoming storm. To make the lizards happy if necessary. Storm itself will go by relatively quickly. And yeah, once we open up this glade, we'll know what to do next. Resolve whatever event is awaiting for us there. Now is a good time for any bets if you're up for it in the comments. See if you're right. I myself, well, the history has shown that the termite nest is something that we keep encountering on every map. So I'm not sure if I'm hoping for it, but my bet is on that one. So let's see if I'm correct. Okay, shelter number 4 goes up. At some point we should also get the notification for new villagers, but I believe that will be in the beginning of the next year. Which means their hostility will not affect us during the storm. Now shelter number 4. Give it so that everybody is well covered from the rain. Okay, brilliant. And now if this park also gets built, then we get 1 extra resolve from the encampment level of the hearth. Good news is that since we have this grain delivery line, we can also use it to produce flour. We do not have anything to make out of, well, any place to make the flour into something more useful, but biscuits and pies, everyone? Anyone? That would be delicious. Okay, so we'll pause for a second. What we want to do is we want to assign our glade workers to this dangerous glade. If they respect us. Nowadays we are using this option of avoiding glades except for marked, so it's you don't have to toggle the options all the time we want to change or open a glade. This will just allow us to mark the next glade if you want to open it. Otherwise the woodcutters will just not do it. Okay, new season or new year begun. And let's check out our cornerstones. So, rooty ground, strange roots spread across the land. Wood production is increased by 1, but harvesting and planting are 25% slower. Not my favorite, because harvesting and planting could become relevant once we find some plots for farming. Then market shift plan, peak strategic changes, always come with an adjustment period. Every neighboring town offers +2 more trade routes, but no trader will arrive in your settlement until you complete at least 3 trade routes. Traders currently staying in the settlement will leave immediately. So again, we get something, we have to give something up. And last but not least, if it is the cooking stream, if you leave rainwater for a while, it will begin to release a pleasant and warm vapor. Food production speed is increased by 15% for every 50 units of drizzle water stored. We are not planning to use much water within this settlement. So given that these options are not amazing, and we do have this assignment to give 10 amber away along with establishing the trading post, that I think we'll go for the option number 4 and just decline. get our 10 amber. And that way we'll be able to solve one of the orders we have on waiting to be resolved. Now let's welcome some new villagers to our lovely little settlement. What I noticed initially is that, ooh, they're bringing like 10 clay with them. There's only 2 of them in the first batch, so a harpy and the lizard. What we can do is just like on the safe side, let's open up the glade and then decide the villagers that we pick, because ideally we want more. But since we're not sure we get access to either the stone or the clay, then it's a bit too risky. That 10... Well, let's see how much that 10 clay would be. Would it allow us to build the druid's hut?